lead level designer. I think I have that. Boom! It's working.
What's going on, man?
All right, Jim. Hey, what's up, man?
You're fine. It's all KL.
No, you're fine.
Oh, good.
I'm bad right now. I can't help it. I don't know what's going on with this particular show. It's fate, I guess. So Jim, for those of you guys that don't know, most of you guys should. Jim is the lead level designer at Epic Games. Worked on Gears of War franchise, also some Unreal in there. Jim, could you give us a proper introduction, let everyone know basically what you do at Epic?
I've been focused more on just kind of multiplayer design, I guess I'd say, for the past several years. I don't know, recently not even as much there, just as much as general design for the company, but overall, yeah, I've worked on everything from MMOs to shooters to military games to fantasy stuff, and as you mentioned, most recently at Epic, working on Unreal, UT, and Gear stuff.
Sweet, sweet. All right, so obviously, you know, we were just talking about Xbox One stuff, dubbed named the Xbox 180 now. Yeah, it is better than Xbox. I think I like that now a little bit more. What do you feel like next gen you're leaning more towards? I was initially going PS4. This recent news kind of has me on the teetering on the line.
I mean,
what do you feel like is your go-to?
I think that most people are going to stick loyal to Microsoft, the people that are already playing online. I think that Sony has a lot to prove still. They kind of did really, really well at E3, and they're announced by basically pointing at Microsoft and saying, we're not doing that, and everybody loved them, right? Just because they said they weren't doing the horrible things that people were expecting. But their network infrastructure is still questionable. All my friends are not there. All of their systems for matchmaking, finding friends, and bringing people together are still, you know, who knows, right? And I still think that Microsoft probably has a better long-term strategy overall. So it's hard to say, right? It could go either way. It's too early to tell. I would definitely say that nobody's out of the fight yet.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yep, definitely. What games were you most looking forward to that came out of E3?
Division from Movie and Massive. I love PvE stuff.
Yeah.
I love PvP stuff. That seemed to have both going on. It looked fantastic. They really kind of seem to be pushing the boundaries a lot there in terms of gameplay, UI, overall presentation, integration of other mediums. You had the guy come in with the tablet that was doing the. So all kinds of really, really good stuff going on there. And
with the tablet. Oh yeah,
I'm most looking forward to. Obviously that and Titanfall just looked badass. The dual scale there of fighting in the mech and then fighting on ground.
Yeah, Titanfall looked really badass.
Building, coming out and seeing this big giant. I don't know. Just looked cool. So I think that has a lot of potential, obviously.
Yeah. Was there anything that I'd say like kind of slipped under your radar there? Like, I mean, the Division for me was probably the one that I was like, I didn't know this game was even going to be made. And then Colin told me about it, and then I saw it literally 30 minutes before our show. I think last week or the week before, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to play this game. So that was one that slipped under my radar a little bit. Was there anyone that like kind of caught you off guard like that?
Kingdom Hearts, which I totally didn't expect. And the crew, the racing one, looked really, really cool. They actually had some interesting things there where it's kind of tied to real geography, so you can drive all the way across the United States and back. Shoot, what was the other really big one? Shoot, I can't remember the name of it. Little spy one where you're going out and you can listen on people's phone calls and stuff.
Watch Dogs.
Which one?
Watch
Watch
Dogs.
Dogs?
Can you not hear us?
Is it crashing? No, I'm still here. I'm just.
The Jim lagged
Watch
there?
Dogs.
I think he
Yeah.
lagged. Was it
Stuff
Watch
there
Dogs?
Where I
Yeah.
could join your game, and you
Okay.
wouldn't know it, and I would go hide in the car and try and spy on you. But if you caught me, you could join my game and kill me in my game while I was in your game. I don't know, it's like this really weird kind of transmedia thing. Yeah.
I didn't even know that was in there. I mean, I've heard some really crazy stuff, like you could hop into someone's game and like help them or
Yeah,
not help them.
There's this weird thing.
I
where
didn't know you
can be
could
in my
actually
game and I can
kill
be back in
people
your game
in it.
and you're
So-
spying on my game while I'm killing you. I don't know, it's really complicated. But it sounds cool.
That sounds like some ultimate griefing stuff.
So Kelly,
I kinda like that.
You want me to take over questions? I guess it's like 10 seconds in.
Yeah, you can
All right.
you
so I'm gonna
can
get into
take over the
some
questions.
of
I
the
have no
level
problem
game
with that.
design questions which we had marked down. So what inspirations do you look for when you look to design a level?
It depends, really. I mean, it kind of comes from different places. Sometimes you just wake up at the night and have a crazy dream and roll into work, and you can just kind of put it down and make it happen. Sometimes it's a particular piece of gameplay that you see that you want to kind of try and emulate, or like a scenario in your head, see how it plays out. Sometimes it's a piece of architecture or a piece of art, or like something you see in a TV show or whatever that kind of inspires you and drives you along. And quite honestly, a lot of times it's piecemeal, right? Like I'll come up with something that'll spur something in somebody else's head, and we kind of work together, and everybody kind of puts their own little piece of the puzzle in until it kind of becomes something.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much collaboration goes into it by
Yeah.
the time that what you see on the disc versus what was initially shown by the level designer. Lots of differences.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, every little piece of that is touched by someone else, from programming to art to production. I mean, every little bit of that gets touched by different hands. And sometimes even, one guy will handle the art, one guy will handle the lighting, one guy will handle the scripting, one guy will handle the world construction. I mean, it's just tons and tons of people. So.
What maps would you say you've enjoyed creating the most? Or I guess, what have been some of your favorite maps from all years in level design? I won't even limit to Gears.
I was just, yeah, I mean, but I mean, most recently.
Yeah, nice. That wasn't a Gears question at all.
Even going back to just Gears 1, we had a really, really small team, so there wasn't quite so many hands in a pot, and it was a really kind of unique and fun experience to come up with an idea, toss it back and forth between just like 2 or 3 people, and out comes something that we did together. And Mansion is a great example, or even Subway was another one. There were a couple that I really liked gameplay-wise. I would pitch it to somebody, they would come back with a layout, and then like in a day or 2 we were playing it, which is really cool. Checkout in Gears 3 was one of those maps where I woke up and had a crazy idea one night, and somebody made a pitch at it, and we played it and didn't really like it. It just wasn't working out. So I spent one day with it and kind of gave it a brand new layout, and it never changed after that. Even through all the iterations and all the changes, giving it art and giving it visuals and everything, the layout stayed just kind of how it was. So that's kind of a very special and unique one in that case, because usually you go through several iterations before something works. So.
It's funny considering that it also went to Judgment in that same state.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I totally didn't expect that. I would have, like, were it up to me, I would have picked probably some different maps to go over the Judgment, but that seemed to be what people wanted.
So in epic shooter titles, and this applies to both Unreal and Gears, I think, there's been a big emphasis on power weapons and having power weapons kind of facilitate flow through a map. Mm-hmm. Is there a conscious pattern of decision when deciding how a weapon will impact a level and the gameplay on it?
Yeah, there definitely is. Some map, well, again, it depends on the game, and it depends on the map, too. UT is a very power weapon-centric game. Like, the whole point is being able to control those pickups and use them to your advantage, and more importantly, deny other people, right?
Right.
Whereas Gears is much more tactical, team-focused stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of maps that are made specifically where, okay, I know there's going to be a really powerful weapon. I'm going to put the one shot here, and it has particular advantages, it has particular disadvantages, and you kind of build the map around that scenario, and inevitably, whatever weapon that is gets taken out and replaced by something else when the rest of the map falls into play. But usually that initial seed is kind of what starts the process, and you kind of build out from there. So in terms of how we design stuff, I think power weapons are definitely important. But it is totally feasible to build a map with no power weapons at all, right? Like, it could be just about the core weapons
Positioning.
that you start with,
Yeah.
or, you know, holding, like you said, holding a position if the team can find a bunker somewhere, or hunker down and defend that spot. In those cases, a lot of times the power weapons are actually more useful for clearing them out than actually giving them a place to start from. But that's, again, totally not game specific.
I have a quick follow-up to that. So if you were making a map around a power weapon, would you focus like center out or corner in, or it seems like the way I would picture it is that if you were going to make a focal point, like, oh, I'm going to put the boom shot or the one shot or something
It depends,
first on the
right?
map,
Like, it depends on
you would go center out
where the
9 times out of
weapon is
10.
in relation to the rest of the map. How many approaches you have? Is it high ground? Is it low ground? Is there room underneath? I mean, so there's a lot of different factors there, but yeah, definitely. Usually, what we do, especially in a UT sense, is you figure out, okay, the geometry of the area, the architecture, the things that are in the world kind of play to that weapon. Looking at a flat cannon, it needs stuff to bounce around. Looking at a sniper rifle, you need clear lines of sight, things like that. So you start with that point and then build out, generally speaking.
Yeah. So next question is that
Go ahead and continue.
obviously you've been at Epic through several, I don't want to say iterations, but obviously a lot of iteration in
Oh, definitely,
both
yeah.
the Unreal Engine and how games are made even. You've been there, what, 10 years now, right?
Yeah, a little over, yeah. This is actually my 11th year there.
So as things have progressed and obviously technology has gotten more advanced, the engine's gotten more advanced, do you find it more or less challenging to create levels? Can you give any examples of challenges that are new, I guess, to level design?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at the good old days, it's funny because it used to be a much more individual process. Early maps that we did, you know, we would build them, we would script them, we would light them, we would decorate them, we would handle the AI and the weapon placement, and everything, top to bottom, was handled by one person. And then, like when you look at UT as a really, really good example of that, or even the first Unreal, that's why there's such a huge diversity in maps. One of the reasons, I should say, because, you know, one guy is doing pyramids in space and the other guy is doing real world kind of military looking architecture and things like that. As technology has progressed, as visual fidelity has progressed, usually people tend to specialize a little bit more. And we've got really, really good artists that are much better than I
Right.
I am not an artist. I could not necessarily make a very pretty map, but we've got guys on the team that could, and they couldn't necessarily make the most fun layout, so to speak. So we tend to kind of partition those out into different parts, and we've got guys that are good at lighting, we've got guys that are good at scripting, we've got guys that are good at putting the meshes, the art in the maps, we've got guys that are focused purely on gameplay, and then we've got guys that never even touch maps, that just handle gameplay systems now.
Right.
Which is a very, very unique skill, and so things are getting a little bit more compartmentalized. But it's interesting because I think as that's happened, things have gotten to be a little bit too fragmented, and that's one of the reasons that team sizes are starting to bloat at a lot of companies. So
Yeah,
if you work for a smaller company,
Right.
you have to be versatile. You have to be better at more. You have to be more flexible and more agile in how you design things. So it's definitely been a challenge. I mean, even for Epic, we are still, despite being who we are, I mean, technically speaking, we're still a small independent company. When you look at our team size compared to any of the other comparable games on the market, we're really,
Yeah, it's like
really
half.
small.
Yeah. Like even studio size, probably about half as much as like your Ubisofts and your.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Activision.
I remember playing the first time this kind of dawned on me is I was playing one of the Bond games from EA, and as I'm watching the credits, because hey, I'm a developer, I always watch the credits. I watch the credits at the end of movies too, it's just how I am. But as I'm watching the credits, I realized that their audio department is bigger than our entire company. Just their audio department, the guys who put sounds in the map. So, it's definitely crazy. And I look back with great fondness on the fact that a game like Gears multiplayer, the team size has never really been more than like 8 people tops. And that covers everything. I mean, yes, we're using art that was designed for the single player, and we're kind of recycling and using it and adding to that. But compare that to some other companies that have 200, 300, 400 people just on multiplayer.
Yep.
Or like if you look at Call of Duty Zombies, I think just that one game mode had over 200 people on it. So it's pretty impressive what we've been able to pull off and still stay small, just by being really, really passionate, really, really versatile in what we do.
I guess as a follow-up, do you think that going forward with next gen that'll have to change? I think it's obviously been a trend across the industry that team sizes have just gotten bigger and bigger as graphics have gotten more and more crazy, and the gameplay systems have gotten more and more complex and specialized.
Yeah, it depends, right? I mean, Epic is very fortunate in that we also produce our engine. So we have an entire team that's devoted to just doing that. So that's a lot of resources that we don't necessarily need on a gameplay team, which frees up our programming resources to be really, really good gameplay programmers that are devoted just to that game. So that helps. And then the same thing, we've got technical artists, we've got technical designers. But yeah, I mean, we're all learning every day, right? We all have to learn new tricks. And I strayed away for several years from art and scripting and went straight into core design. But it's slowly, I've been kind of rolling some of those things back in. So I think it's adapt to survive sort of thing, right? In the industry, I mean, if you keep doing the same thing, you're never going to keep going. It's like I said, Epic has reinvented it several times. We've actually even been referring to ourselves as Epic 3.0 very recently, just because of how much stuff has changed over the course of the past few months.
Interesting. All right, well, I guess we can quit looking into the future and go more to the current, even a little bit back to judgment loss of these questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Colin, hold on one second. I'm going to boost up audio. We had some people asking for that.
If you boost it through chat, Jim's not talking in chat, right? He's in Skype.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh no, he's in chat.
No, I'm on my chat now.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just kill Skype.
Oh, so I can close Skype?
Fix the issue, but probably not. You should. Hold on.
I don't see him as an option to boost, so they're just gonna have to. Does he have? Yes, he probably has to have that plugin downloaded. I'm not gonna worry about it.
I'll try to talk louder.
There you go. Just shout it all. That's all I did for like 3 weeks before we found the boost audio button.
Yeah. Sadly, I was not prepared, so I don't have a mic tonight. Sorry. It's my bad.
All right, so I've got. I'll admit these are some hard-hitting questions off the back, and they're my own. I appreciate Kayla has a couple mixed in here.
That's good. I'm not afraid.
But we'll go and do these before going into the community questions, which in some ways hit harder. But I feel like they're all questions that have come up both previously. You've probably answered a few of these previously. You guys do the weekly stream, obviously, where you answer lots of these questions anyways. But for our audience, I'm not sure they've heard
the live streams,
the answers to those questions, and maybe not directly from you. So With Judgment, there was a distinct shift towards fewer playlists. It was something which came up towards the end of Gears 3 because you guys had like 30 playlists at the end of Gears 3, and all of them had quick match and ranked as options. So obviously with Judgment, it meant removing a few game types and shaving everything down. But then at launch, you guys had 2 separate playlists, some for season pass holders, some for non-season pass holders, and now there's new game types coming out, which is more DLC, or game types coming out as DLC, which means more playlists. Do you think that Judgment's starting to run into the same issue that Gears 3 had in regards to the playlist counts? Do you think there's a good solution here?
Yes, it's absolutely running into the same problem for the very same reasons. And to be perfectly frank, a lot of that was a communication breakdown with us at Epic, really. I mean, the whole situation with Judgment was basically a brand new team, and it just wasn't set up smartly, I guess is the best way to look at it. And we learned some really, really good lessons on Gears 3 that didn't necessarily transfer over to Judgment in a lot of ways. So, I mean, basically, we're running into the same problems where we ported over as much of the systems as we could because we were on a shorter timeline.
Right.
And that was one of the things that just really didn't get addressed and I guess didn't get thought through enough as it should have. It
was one of those things where you guys were just about to ship and you're like, oh, shit.
No, I mean,
you looked at the playlist.
To be perfectly honest with you, like the VIP playlist stuff, I was coming onto the project at the very, very end there, and really didn't have a good grasp on how that was set up to work until after we launched. And I wish that I had, because I would have set it up totally differently now, especially now in retrospect, because we've learned that it's not the right way to do that for sure.
Right.
And ideally, what you want is a way for people who don't have content to basically be told they don't have content and not be able to connect. Whereas right now, you can't join a playlist if you don't have that content.
Right.
And so we don't have a way of telling you. Matchmaking doesn't have a way of understanding that, and so you would cycle and spin and never connect, and it would feel like the game was broken.
Right.
So yeah, there's any number of issues there. There's a lot of ways to solve it, but unfortunately, it's not something that we can retrofit with Gears without a major redesign of our architecture. So it's just sad to face.
All right. I guess along the same thread, in the past, I believe with Gears 1 for sure, I think Gears 2 and 3 as well, when game types were introduced, they were always introduced as title updates alongside DLC generally. So what this meant was that the game types were free and they were just thrown into the playlist that everyone could play, and obviously the playlist numbers can stay up. Currently, with it being part of the DLC, you only have it in that playlist. What led the decision to break off game types into DLC instead of title updates?
There never really was a conscious decision to do that, and a lot of that is driven largely by Microsoft's side in terms of how do we maximize value to the customer, right? Like if they're going to charge X amount of dollars for a DLC, they want to make sure that there's enough in there that it's worth paying that amount of money, and they have kind of rules about how much you can charge, how much the minimum they can charge, what kind of they're targeting to make budgets and stuff like that. So they're always driving what can we add in terms of making a DLC more valuable. And really that was the main thing, is we wanted people to get value for their money with the VIP pass and the DLC. So there was, as far as I know, there was never any conscious decision of like, hey, they used to be free in the past, but now we're going to start charging for them. I would be surprised if anybody even really realized that. I would actually have to go back and look to see whether or not that's a valid case or not, because I don't know.
All right. I don't have any follow-ups. Let's go to the next one. So in the past, Gears had mostly symmetrical maps, usually wide, I guess would be the best definition. It was just wide symmetrical maps. So what considerations came in when you're doing Judgment? You're yeah, except for escalation.
Not escalation.
So the question is, do you love escalation or do you hate escalation?
Oh, I hate escalation so much. It's out of my memory.
I hate
That and
escalation.
Overpass.
Ugh.
Just let them burn. So,
Great.
what considerations came when developing for the more vertical and, I guess, free-flowing would probably be the best definition for the gameplay and judgment? Have any recent DLC maps been good examples
Yeah.
of the response from the tip maps?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean, I still very, very clearly remember the day that someone came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to start making. We want to try free for all." And so we tried free for all, and it really wasn't any fun. The first map we got it up and running with was Gridlock, and you know it was all right. But it wasn't really working, and so we decided, well, if we really want to make this work, then we need to make maps to support it. So we did that, and they became very asymmetrical maps. Just kind of more traditional deathmatch style flow. And then as we finally got in what we wanted, which was the better verticality, jumping off ledges and things like that, they became a bit more mazy, more complicated, and I like the cat. And before we knew it, that's kind of what we had going on. And again, I don't think that there was a lot of really foresight in there into how that was going to play out, if we were going to use them just for that game type, if that meant we were going to have to split between and do a certain number of maps for one game type and certain maps for other team game types. So one day the team just tried TDM in a free-for-all map, and it seemed to work, and so we ran with it. We did a lot of balancing in terms of player starts and in relation to weapons and things like that. But yeah, I mean, the community response is obvious, right? And so you can see a lot of that coming back in the new DLC maps that we have are still asymmetrical. They still have, each room has its own kind of personality, its own gameplay, but the general layouts are a lot more symmetrical, especially in this most recent one, than anything we shipped originally. Mm-hmm.
I do have a follow-up to that, Jim. And this is more of a question, because I kind of wonder this myself. It's something that we've seen in the past. I know I've been trying to be silent because I have this weird delay going on. But do you think it's odd, and you see this in Gears of War, you see it in a lot of other multiplayer titles, that you introduce free-for-all as a way for people that play solo to have a chance to enjoy the game and not have to worry about a team aspect of it. But in Gears specifically, players don't like being teamed up on. And so the clear route to me is like, okay, well, for those guys, they would enjoy free-for-all. I mean, that's just what you want to play. But at the same time, those same guys, at least some of them, will say, you know what, I don't really like free-for-all, or I don't really like this. I want to go back to the old thing. So it seems like it's really, would you say it's really difficult to try to make a playing environment where solo players that want to play team but somehow don't find free-for-all satisfying to kind of, I guess, balance?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard, right? Like, you have to kind of decide early on, I think, if you're making a team game or you're making a solo game. You can do some of that and adjust with your game types. Something like domination allows for a little bit of both, right? Because you can say, this is my ring, I own this ring, you guys go do whatever you're going to want, whatever you want to do, this is my spot. So you can kind of get that solo play and that team play all at the same time. But in my personal opinion, Gears has always been about team play, and that is the core of where it should be for Gears. I mean, that's definitely not the case for every game out there, but at its heart and soul, Gears is about teamwork, and so that should be the primary focus.
All right. So actually went into the maps a little bit, and I think that you guys obviously, well, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Do you feel the decision to have separate maps for Overrun impacted the community response to the game at launch? Do you think that the only 4 maps outcry from the player base was justified in that sense?
I think that we never should have split between game types. we definitely should have gone the route of either saying, hey, this is a game where we're going to do Overrun and we're going to make it awesome and really pour all of our resources into it, or we shouldn't have done it at all. Judgment was a really, really kind of interesting experiment for us to try some new ideas and try some new things, and I think a lot of them really worked. Like, I really think that Overrun is a fantastic game type.
Its numbers are actually up there with even TDM.
Yeah, I mean,
was
it
kinda
definitely
surprised.
is. It's huge, but it is a completely separate player base.
Yep.
The two do not necessarily mix, and I think it was a huge failing of us to not pick a side, right? Like, you can't have it all, you can't have both. I don't think that it's necessarily fair for people to say, oh, I only got 4 maps, because you didn't. You got more maps, you just chose not to play the other ones. I'm not saying you should be forced to enjoy both game types, but in terms of the resources we had available, the time we had available, we certainly didn't not deliver on content. It was just not the content that specific people necessarily wanted to play.
After playing Overrun, again, I'm sorry guys for the delay. After playing Overrun, some of the initial feedback that we had was this game type is awesome. It's going to get a lot of, this isn't the game I want to play.
Are you talking
I
when you came in for the playtest?
I'll quote
or
verbatim
after launch?
what I told
Okay, right.
you guys. When we came in for the playtest, I said, this game type is not for the crowd that is currently on the game. It's basically, this would do a hell of a lot better if you just released it as a separate entity, or if you put it on PC. Like, it would do fantastic. Knowing that, like, what you know now, and I consider the replay value of Overrun, I could play the same map significantly more than I could play the same map for multiplayer, traditional multiplayer. So do you feel like maybe Overrun should have only had 2 maps, and then the rest of the traditional TDM should have had 6, or do you think the Overrun crowd would have been like,
no, I think that
only got 2 maps?
Well, I can't speak necessarily to the feedback that you guys gave during that playtest, because I wasn't on the team at that point, so I never even met you guys when you were in the office, sadly. But
I know.
In my personal opinion, I think that given the team that we had on Judgment, the time and budget and everything that was there, and the changes that we were making and things that we were trying to do, personally, I think we should have just made Overrun. Maybe Overrun Survival and something else based in those same maps, and left the TDM stuff for Gears 3. And just really kind of run with it, right? Like, really embraced it, and by splitting up the team that we had, the very, very limited resources that we had working on that, I think that if we had had that entire team focused on it, it could have been even that much better. And I really do think it's a great game type, and it does, like you said, I mean, the playlist is bounces back and forth between TDM as being the most popular one. So there's definitely a crowd out there for it. And if we had gone just a few extra steps to get in there, I think we really could have captured more of the competitive crowd as well. And that really could have taken off as the way to play Gears. But what we ended up doing really is fracturing the community a little bit more than we had hoped. And so chances are that's not necessarily going to happen this time around.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing going forward, because any future Gears games now are going to have to kind of toe that line, in the sense that if you want to include Overrun in the game, then it's going to be, do you have Overrun only maps? Do you try to shoehorn Overrun into your multiplayer maps? Or do you just cut Overrun and just leave it with Judgment, like... Yeah,
and it depends a lot on the scope of the project, too, right? I mean, like, a Gears 1 size game, which is essentially kind of what Judgment was, is very, very small by comparison to Gears 2 and Gears 3. You're going to have to pick a path. You're going to have to kill some puppies and make some things go away that you're going to miss. You're going to have to make those sacrifices.
That's a headline from this conversation now. Epic Games, Jim Brown says you have to kill some puppies.
Yeah, that's what we call it when people lose
Kill
their
some
pet
puppies.
features internally. But I mean, if you're looking at a game that's the scope of something like Gears 3, I mean, that was really kitchen sink. It had everything. It had a huge team. It had a huge budget. We had a lot of time. It had every game mode under the sun. It had tons of maps. It had tons of DLC. I mean, it just really had everything going for it. And so you could do something there, but you have to budget for it in advance. So.
If you throw a bomb game type in Gears 3, I would buy that DLC.
You know, that's something we had talked about back
we
and
still be
forth.
playing that. Man,
We had even prototyped at one point, and it just, for whatever reason, I don't even know what happened there. I always wanted it to happen.
It's
I just don't know
objectively
what
better
happened.
than Warzone execution. Just from a
Yeah, I totally 100%
there's no
agree.
argument at all.
I don't know why it's not in Judgment. Even with the breakthrough game type, it started as a CTF.
Yeah.
And CTF in asymmetrical maps was just
It's essentially one flag.
working.
Yeah. It's essentially one flag with
so-
a Gears twist, right?
Not good.
Yeah, and so actually, I sat the team down one day and we had a big long kind of heart to heart, and it was like, okay, we need to make changes. We don't have time to make the bomb game type, but we need to do what we can to make this more like that, more single objective focused and all those things. So that was kind of the evolution of how the breakthrough game type came to be. Hopefully that's captured some of that feeling. But yeah, someday, bomb game type someday.
I'll keep dreaming. And then the last question we have from us before we get into the community questions was, I believe you guys have answered this before, but just to reiterate, what was the reasoning for reverting the shot from the barrel of the gun to the center of the screen? Obviously, it's particularly with the Nasher that this usually comes up.
That's more of a Pete question for sure. I don't exactly know the thought process that went in behind it. I can tell you that we definitely did that to favor the player, because if the shots were coming from the camera, it was easy to backpack and to basically miss at close range. So we added some, knowing that the Nasher is such a close range weapon, CQB style stuff, we basically added an extra bit of code in there that says, hey, if you are touching the person, we're not going to shoot from the camera, we're going to shoot from the barrel of the gun. Being in third person, you don't always want to shoot from the barrel of the gun because the bullets don't necessarily go where you think they're going to go. So there's a lot of back and forth and debate there. But we always try and make sure that we give the player what they would expect to happen. We favor them getting the kill as opposed to getting frustrated and not. So.
Yeah, now that I've seen it firsthand working on third-person games, like I don't think players really realize how much camera affects like shooting mechanics. Like it's huge, absolutely huge, and people just think it's like it should be this way, and it's like, man, if you guys only knew some of the
especially when you have cover and you're leaning out around ledges and stuff.
Camera.
It has the animation finished before I pull the trigger. Okay, well, I just shot myself in the foot when I should have been leaning out. Oh yeah, there's just all kinds of craziness that goes on there. And the camera is a whole lot more complicated than people realize, for sure.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the community questions. I got a couple of quick ones you can swat down, as I'm sure that you and Will both have enjoyed doing. So from Backsmack, Nathan Walker, Varix, and Andres Rivera, that's 4 different people. Will Gears of War come to the next generation Xbox One?
Obviously, we are not announcing any new game, DLC, anything tonight. I would love for it to. Gears is near and dear to me. I've been working on it pretty much for 10 years straight now. It is one of my babies. So I would love to see it continue, but no announcements tonight for sure.
All right, I got another one. I have a feeling you're going to swat down from Mr. Awesome Sauce 93. Any hints to find that undiscovered Easter eggs from any of the Gears game? Will there be additional DLC for Judgment besides Lost Relics?
I do not talk about Easter eggs because then they wouldn't be Easter eggs. That would just be me telling you how to do weird stuff in maps. And the whole point of them is for people to find them and stuff. So, and then will there be more DLC? Like I said, we're not announcing anything tonight, so I will neither confirm nor deny any rumors you may have heard.
I sort of advised them in the past that certain questions just won't get answers, and you're
That's
just wasting
fine.
your question.
They're welcome to ask, always.
It's like appearing in front of like the genie and asking that question just to know the genie would be like, yeah, I can't legally tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is that even if I wanted to say something, I'm really not legally allowed to.
You lose your
And
job.
I would lose my job.
All right, so the next one from Gavin123. How did Gears Judgment come to be? What was the motive behind making a prequel as opposed to improving on Gears 3? In hindsight, would this have been your preferred approach to the franchise?
It depends on kind of how you define that, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, we never necessarily set out to make a prequel. We knew that we were on very limited time, very limited budget, and we didn't really scope huge because of that. And then as things started to fall in place, we're like, hey, this is actually really fun, this is working, this is a cool game. So we wanted to kind of expand on it, and we built out from there. So the Baird story kind of evolved and became a prequel. It wasn't actually never sent out to be that way. And then also with Judgment, we knew that we kind of had a chance to do some new stuff. We wanted to try some new things. And so it was a little bit of a playground for us as well. So I think that there were definitely some wins there. I think in a lot of cases we may have gone too far and tried to do too much at once, even with ideas that really kind of turned out to be good. I think that them stacked on other ideas kind of canceled each other out. It was too much change all at once for a lot of our kind of more traditional core audience, and that frightened a lot of people away. So, which is unfortunate. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, real quick here.
Do you think that a
Cut to red.
Sorry, my battery's dying, so I gotta get a cord here.
Jim with the hand?
Are you good now?
Yeah, I'm waiting on a cord. It's incoming, so go ahead.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up, Kale? I think you had
Yeah, I was gonna ask. You know, with all the changes that were made, and I'm sure this is a question that was asked by the community, why not just go prequel to whole Gears of War trilogy? That way, you can kind of say, okay, this is Gears of War, but this is COG versus UIR, and something. I mean, was that idea kind of thrown around? Like, if you can even answer that, just so that all of the new changes that were made wouldn't be as like, why are there no Locusts? Why do you do this now? Why is that now?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know.
sense.
I wasn't in any of those early meetings when we talked about, hey, what should we do? Where are we going with this? So I don't know what the full thought process was there. I know that we have always wanted to do a game about Emergence Day. And we were always worried that unless we had really a high budget, a lot of time to do it, we couldn't do it justice. We wanted to do it right, and be able to show kind of that massive destruction, that the emotion involved in that sort of thing, and really kind of do it justice in a way that we thought the franchise deserved. So we kind of shied away from it a little bit because it was a little bit daunting for us. And then in terms of going back, this is going to come back to bite me, but I'm going to say it anyway. In terms of going back to a time frame with the UIR versus the COG, we didn't want to do that because we didn't want to lose the Locust. And that's, to me, that's such a core part of what Gears is.
Can I ask you a follow-up question on that?
Like I said, I know that's going to come back to bite.
So that said, why did you remove the Locust from multiplayer?
So keep in mind there, I am talking about single player primarily. Like that is definitely where we were going in terms of story and in terms of kind of capturing those raw emotions of, hey, these monsters are coming out from under the bed to attack me. That's always been where we're going with Gears. In terms of multiplayer, I've personally gone back and forth on that one a lot. I said even in the live stream last week, I miss them. I wish we had never gotten rid of them. They are, when you think of Gears, that is one of the first 2 or 3 things that comes to mind is the Locust for sure. So yeah, but I mean it was a big thing for Cliff. And he definitely had a point, right? That there are a lot of people out there who just don't identify with monsters. And they don't care, and they don't want to play as them. They don't want to see them. Whereas if I can be the super cool, badass soldier, I can identify with that. I'm going to feel empowered. I'm going to want to play. And that is a big reason that modern shooters have been, I think, a lot more successful. Because people can relate to those characters. And when you look at the people who do cosplay for Gears, who are writing fan fiction, who really identify with their characters, not all, but the vast majority of them identify with COG. They dress up as COG. They get COG tattoos. They don't get Locust crosses. They don't get scary monsters on their arms. And so that was the decision we decided to roll with it and see how it could play out, for better or worse.
I've been dressing up as a Locust in real life for years.
Everyone would dress up as
in a lot of ways, the Overrun game type is that, right? Like that took a lot of influence from MOBA games. Before they kind of really picked up and became what they are right now. Obviously, I'm not going to go as far as to say, oh yeah, it's a MOBA in first person, whatever, but I'm just saying there are a lot of cues that we took from this style of game. So.
All right.
I missed the Locust.
What's funny is I don't think we actually had the Locust question on here, and then you just went right to it.
No, people always ask it, and that's totally fine, right?
Yeah, we've heard the answer before.
I didn't include it because I watched the live stream.
That's
Yeah.
Let's see.
People just like asking.
Something you might be able to answer. Are you or any other people on the Epic Games GAO Judgment team moving to other projects? Obviously, I believe you're down to just you, Pete, and Will, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, I mean for so basically, so almost the entirety of Judgment was built by the guys at PCF, especially the single player. We had some guys working internally on the Aftermath campaign, and for single player, there was a lot of back and forth between Epic and PCF, just kind of daily builds back and forth. Giving advice, helping out, bug fixing, all that kind of stuff. But it was primarily built and designed by the guys at PCF.
Right.
Overrun was started by the team at the PCF. And eventually all the multiplayer stuff rolled back in-house at Epic. And so we were kind of juggling a lot of balls there. But pretty much as soon as we shipped, every single person Epic side moved on to other projects and doing other things, which left kind of me and Pete and Will to shepherd the community, to build that stuff. We've had a couple other guys that have kind of rolled back and forth between design on Gears Judgment and some other stuff that we're doing internally, and they've been a huge help in terms of producing the DLC maps. But like the new game type and a lot of the art and other stuff that you see in Gears DLC or in Judgment DLC was done by guys at PCF, working with me and Pete, and then Will handling the community side of things.
Then the other question from Mr. Kman1567, I didn't say his name before, was what is possible with Unreal Engine 4 that wasn't possible with Unreal Engine 3, if you could answer that.
I'm trying to see what I'm allowed to say about UE4 at this point.
I say it's not a public engine.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't said too much. Yeah, I'm just going to duck that question. I'm going to diverge for now.
All right, from Shy Guy XII 12, Shy Guy 12. Are there any plans to fix the audio bugs
12.
and the cover sliding bugs that shipped with the game?
People would have to be a lot more specific.
For
in
example,
terms of
audio bugs. I know off the top of my head, grenades always the audio always goes to the left ear, depending on, and you can hear them across the map with no occlusion whatsoever.
Right. So hearing stuff through walls, it has always been the way it is in Unreal Engine 3. So that's probably not fixable without a major engine overhaul at this point. And since we're already moving on to UE4, chances are that's probably not going to change. It's a lot more evident in Judgment because there's a lot more over-under and more kind of mazy rooms next to each other, so you hear stuff like that. And some of the other stuff, I don't know that it can be addressed easily, especially given the resources we have left on the project. But send us information, and if we can repro it and actually figure out it's a bug that's fixable, we'll definitely look into it.
All right. So from Show No Mercy, he dropped the W, so it's just SHO, No Mercy. So I should say Show No Mercy as one word. Do you think do you think you all will support Oculus Rift in the future?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we actually
some stuff actually came out recently about Epic.
Yeah. There's been a lot of stuff looking at our engine demos and stuff running on Oculus Rift. So definitely, we've had a dev kit in for quite some time, and we were working with the team there. We were working very, very closely with them until the unfortunate accident kind of set that back a little bit. But yeah, that thing is amazing. All the video, if you haven't had a chance to actually to wear it, to see it, all the videos you see of people like putting it on and falling over and laughing hysterically are totally true. You get motion sickness and you feel dizzy for a while, but it's kind of like wearing 3D glasses for the first time. Like your brain isn't quite sure what it's seeing, and so it gets confused. But it's gotten a lot better. They've got HD now. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff happening there. Really excited to see what happens when the Oculus Rift and cameras start talking to each other. So we've got something like, say, Kinect and the Rift working together, and you're basically in virtual reality at that point. So there's some really cool possibilities for sure.
That's why I have a Gears game where I can slam against a wall into cover. Like, that's all I really want.
Yes, you want to destroy your house by diving behind the couch.
My neighbors may not appreciate it, but it would be so fucking worth it.
That would be interesting for sure, yeah.
So, man, these questions are all over the place. So going right back to Judgment.
It's all good.
Okay. So, what have you taken away? This is from Rigimeister. I think that's right. What have you taken away from Judgment, seeing that Gears 3 recently on Major Nelson's population number report, I think it was actually almost from a month ago, that Gears 3 passed Judgment in population count. What have you taken away from Judgment, given that, I believe, is what the question was?
I know it's hard to say. I mean, there's so many factors that play into that. I think the biggest thing that we've taken away from Judgment is that even given our very, very small team, we've put a lot of work into community. And as soon as we really kind of made some changes that people were looking for, and really just kind of threw ourselves into supporting the community wholeheartedly, we've had a much better relationship than we have ever in the past with our community and any of our other games. And literally the day that we did that, our population stabilized. So yes, it never got to the huge numbers that Gears 3 did, but the group that we did have stabilized, very devoted, very passionate, and very vocal, which is great. I mean, it was just a matter of us actually listening to the feedback. And so we made some really, really good, I don't want to say advances, but I think we made some really big wins there, bringing Will on board, and that made a huge change for Epic for sure. And just in general, it's really kind of changed the way that we look at our relationship with the community and the way we design games moving forward. So hopefully in the future, we'll see some good change there.
It's tough to say because Gears 3 was really really successful in general. Like even from a multiplayer standpoint, like it's one of the most popular games. Like I believe in like the terms how their numbers held up was up there with just about every game released. So it's a hard standard I think to compare.
Yeah,
to.
and it's also had a team that was 2 to 3 times the size that they had on Judgment and much more large budget, much more support publisher side from Microsoft. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of things that were very, very different with the Judgment team as opposed to the Gears 3 team, which, I mean, again, we knew from the beginning it was a bit of a gamble. We wanted to take some risks. We wanted to try some new things, and we learned a lot.
From Astonished the Producer, how do you feel about Hype Station being canceled? Obviously, it was going to take place in Raleigh, right where you guys are.
Yeah, we were super bummed about it, to be honest with you, especially Will, because Will had been working with those guys very, very closely.
Yeah.
He was on the phone with Barbosa every day, going back and forth. We had all been having conversations. We had all had plans. We had Epic's throwing some support behind them as well. And it just, for a lot of reasons, didn't work out, which is really sad.
All right. From Pharisee Nicodemus, quite the name. It's one of our regular YouTube commenters. Actually, I recognize the name. Will the success of this game change in multiplayer priorities from casual gamers, or will the balancing act continue to attempt to introduce new players into Gears?
So, I have a problem with terminology there. People always say, we always try and capture the casual audience.
I hate casual. I hate the word competitive too.
It is, right? It draws hard lines where they don't need to be, and I've always been a huge proponent of making games more accessible. That doesn't mean dumbing them down. It doesn't mean making them easier. It means making them more accessible to a broader audience, which could be as simple as changing a button in the menus. It has nothing to do with actually changing the way the game plays or how difficult it is. So there's a lot that plays into that. So yeah, I refuse to say that we have dumbed down the game in order to reach a broader audience.
I will play devil's advocate for a second. Cut you off real quick. Would you say the Sawed Off is a case of introducing something that is meant to introduce new players but has an impact on the game as a whole, maybe dumbing it down slightly or making it easier? Because I think that the community would largely point to that weapon and the retro as examples of that from Gears 3, and then obviously they carried over into Gears Judgment as well.
Right, and I would point you back to what you were just saying, where Gears 3 was one of the more popular games with the bigger audiences of anything we've ever built. And that's one of the reasons why, right? It wasn't because we made the game dumber, it was because we were able to reach more types of players who choose to play differently. Yes, we'll go on record saying we love the Nasher players. We totally embrace it. We understand it. We get it. But if we just keep making the same game with the same gameplay and without expanding, we're not going to increase sales. We're going to lose people. Yes, we have a very, very devoted core audience, but if we keep that same audience over the course of 4 or 5 games, we're actually going to lose people. We're not going to gain people. We need each of those people to find something new and tell a friend and bring more people in. So you got to try new things. You got to expand. You can't just keep making the same game over and over. And that's not unique to us, right? Like every developer does that. Is every idea successful? No, obviously not. But it's something you got to do, right? You got to keep growing that audience. You can't just sit on your laurels and keep making the same thing over and over every time. So I think the Sawed Off captures a different type of player, but I would say that if you really are that hardcore of a Nasher player, you know how to deal with the Sawed Off player anyway, and so it's not that big a deal.
Okay, you got anything?
They're blowing up.
I'm just looking at the chat right now as they're blowing up, pointing at Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty.
I think Call of Duty is
Call
an
of Duty.
argument
Call of
that
Duty,
people just want
Call of
more of the
Duty.
same from their games. You know, like yeah.
Despite saying
I don't know,
otherwise.
man. I mean,
We don't want the same game. Give us something different.
a lot of that is memory, right? Like, go back and play the original Call of Duty.
Yeah,
You'll see
I will say
that
that
it
Call of
is
Duty
very
is-
different. They've made a lot of maybe subtle changes, but they have definitely
Right.
made changes. They, look at their kill streaks and their death streaks and how that really changed the game entirely. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, they do all that stuff.
We barely mentioned it on the show.
I don't like talking about Call of Duty too much, so I'm just gonna avoid even pointing at that. I will say that most recently with the release of Battlefield 3, that Call of Duty's is on a decline based off of statistics. Yeah. So despite what you guys are saying, that's actually incorrect.
I mean, they're at a huge scale, though, right? They're like they're way above anybody else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and to be honest, I mean, like one of the things you got to keep in mind is you want your audience to grow.
Going down, so
it's not necessarily, especially this late in the console generation, it's not like new players are just going to materialize in mass numbers. So what you actually have to do is steal them from another group, right? You have to find something that appeals to those players and doesn't completely alienate your current user base in order to grow. So yeah, I mean, we're going to have to make compromises, and we're going to have to try new things. And like I said, sometimes they work out great, and sometimes they don't. So
I think on that note, we can actually go to the next question from Dre Jr. He's asking if the test server will be implemented again anytime soon.
Yeah, it's more a matter of figuring out what you guys want in there, right? We talked about doing some changes to weapon balance. We talked about doing some melee changes in there. And we talked about doing some more special event type stuff. Obviously, we'll keep doing that every weekend. So reach out to us, find us on any of our various communication methods: email, Twitter, Facebook, forums, whatever. Let us know what you want to see, because we're really willing to do anything in there, and that's the whole point, is just to try things.
All right. So with the last DLC, you guys added checkout, and it's identical to the checkout that was in Gears 3, obviously, with the exception of weapon changes, obviously. So the question from Evil Mac is it feasible to port the remaining Gears 3 maps to Gao J as DLC? I guess the root of that question also is how much time and effort goes into doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a much bigger process than people realize. Saying that checkout...
Whoa, your mic's just going nuts.
Exactly the same is...
You were in a lag spike or something.
It's all good.
All right,
better now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Hold on 1 second, Jim.
Okay, so saying that checkout is the same as it was in Gears 3 is true at a superficial level. It was actually several days of work just to get it up and running in the editor, not to mention all of the changes that had to happen gameplay side, plus it has to go through a full round of testing through our QA department to test all the new game modes, all the new weapons, all the new systems, and everything that's involved with Judgment. Then it has to go through everything on the same publisher side. So basically what we're talking about is dozens of people working for several weeks, plus going through Microsoft certification process. So, I mean, we're talking literally hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get that map up and running. So it's not like we can just, hey, we have a map in Gears 3 and we can just load it up and it works in Judgment. That is not the case at all. Even just to get it superficially looking exactly the same is a major effort, and it's not something that we necessarily have control over ourselves.
Right.
We would love to push out a title update every day to be actively fixing changes and bugs and things that are going wrong, but everything we do, we have to go through Microsoft. It has to go through their systems. They have to be willing. They have a QA team and producers and a full team on their side that they have to pay the staff for, that they have to support all the systems as part of the larger Xbox economy. And there's all kinds of weird rules and stuff that goes on their side as well. So it's by no means a simple process. and it's by no means something that we necessarily have control over ourselves. We can make a good argument for it. We can try, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't get to say what goes on Xbox Live. They do.
Right. We've talked about that kind of stuff quite a bit especially the last few weeks.
Before,
Yeah.
we've tried to explain it.
I mean, I think Arctic and I were having a
continue on that
conversation.
process.
I think you brought it up on Twitter actually the other day about how going back to focus more on a PC style where you can push live updates whenever you want is huge from a developer's perspective, right? I mean, that gives you control over your IP, it gives you control over your game.
It's absolutely huge.
It lets you communicate and be in touch directly with your community, as opposed to going through this several weeks of delay and expense and approval process and some weird guy in an office on the other side of the world who has no connection to the game whatsoever. And it puts everything back in the control of the developer, which is awesome.
Just hopefully where things are going.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Right. There's a couple questions that I couldn't include. One was Rabbit Tricks he's actually in the chat right now. One of the first people to tweet me, and I couldn't include his because I went bottom up. But he had a lot of questions about matchmaking and the competitive scene. So I'm just going to generalize some of his questions. Obviously, we have a lot of competitive followers from the whole MLB side of things. With the recent, I guess, emphasis on kind of community interaction, I guess the big question a lot of people have is like, with the matchmaking currently in play, do you feel that it's beneficial right now to a competitive environment? I think most people would kind of argue under the hood that it doesn't really hold up competitively. And either that being the separation of quick match and rank match, or just how rank match
I have
functions.
never liked the concept of
I brought up earlier playing in a solo and then playing against a party of 5.
Yeah, I mean, and Colin and I have even gone back and forth a couple times about the finer points of what makes good matchmaking and how you define that kind of stuff. The algorithms that we use, I don't pretend to understand. That's more of the programming side, but at its core, we basically use the system that was implemented by Microsoft and the Halo team. Everybody has a variance from there. They use their own algorithms and things like that. The main difference, I think, between us and a lot of the other systems is that we don't necessarily show you this is exactly what your rank is. All that stuff is factored in into the matchmaking systems. We do have them, believe it or not. People always say that we don't. We do have it in there, not for quick match, obviously. That just tries to find you the highest quality match as fast as it can, but for rank stuff it does. And that's why it takes so long to sync up and find a full team and all that stuff. Again, I don't know if you want to talk more of the specifics about what goes into that and makes that a good or bad system. I don't profess to understand it wholly, but Gears does use matchmaking. We just don't necessarily show you the specifics number by number of where you are and who you're matched up against in plain view there, because that's actually been shown to have a seriously kind of negative effect on gameplay, and people trying to game the system and wonder like, oh, why did I get matched up with that guy, and kick him out or abuse him or whatever, right? There's just a lot of fallout from that.
So you think that going forward you guys make changes to that system? Obviously you're using an older version of TrueSkill, which obviously is the system which you're talking about that Microsoft had in place for the Xbox 360. So you think that going forward you'll be more interested in kind of exploring other options? Obviously quick match and rank match would be another thing that might not be there Xbox One. I'm not sure.
Yeah, God, I hope not. I can't wait for that to go away. Yeah, I mean, definitely. As we move forward, we're definitely making changes to everything, I guess is the best way to say that. I can't talk about specifics, obviously. But yeah, we're looking at everything and trying to make it as best as it can be. And I think that one of the things I will say about Epic right now is that we are hugely focused on making games for the community, right? Not making games for us, not making games for publisher, but actually making games and giving people what they want as much as we can, and really trying to capture that old spirit that used to be there, even back in the old Unreal days when communities finally started to form on PC and people were making clans and having practices and doing all those things. And I think the industry as a whole is kind of trending back toward that, especially as PCs are starting to pick up steam a lot more again, and you're able to do more by yourself as a developer. I'm trying not to say too much, so I hope that doesn't come off as being too vague.
It's a tough line to toe. Yeah.
Right. I know. It's like, so I want to kind of shift to Lost Relics DLC since that just came out. People should, I mean, it's out today for everybody else. I was playing it last week. And then we're going to hit questions from the chat directly. But, you know, I got a chance to play Lost City. I haven't played Overrun yet. I played Museum. I haven't played Checkout yet, but, I mean, I know
I think you played Checkout before, yeah.
For the most part. So I think I want to play Breakthrough on Checkout.
I will say Breakthrough
so
on Checkout is kind of a unique experience.
I want to play Breakthrough
very different from the other maps the way it plays out. So don't use that as your core judgment, but definitely do try it.
Okay. So you know, feedback in terms of the maps. You know, I like Lost City. I like the almost like a base type feel that you kind of get from one side and the other side. I think I've never been a fan of interactive items and maps. I think my biggest issue with that is like sometimes you get caught in really weird positions and the boom shot is there. So you know, someone swings it and you're like, oh crap, and you know you think you have a shot lined up. I think that happened to me one time. I had a shot lined up with the boom, and someone hit the button literally as I was about to fire the boom, and it just completely screwed me up. So I mean, it kind of does not as bad as like a security or you know, something where
that's one of those really fine lines, like the uber hardcore competitive crowd wants no risk of chance, right? Like you want it to come down to skill, you want it to come down to how well you can execute, and not you want to eliminate as much randomness as possible. But that type of gameplay isn't always broad appeal. So we try and find a balance there, right? We usually have a few maps with something weird going on, and then some that are kind of static and more predictable, less random, because they capture a different crowd. But Lost City overall, I think, is a great map. It's a lot more symmetrical than some of the other ones we've done in the past with Judgment. So in that regard, I think it's a really fun map. It's very well balanced. And there's the one shot and the long shot, but for execution that switches out, so it's long shot and long shot. So yeah, give it a chance.
Right. The museum map is I only have one word for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
looked really mazy.
It is a big map. My first time on it, there was just winding corridors, and I was like, where am I going? But I think I played it 3 times, and I got the layout pretty quick. But it's definitely a large map. Is there any...
Well, so we always try and do
going into it,
a range, right? We always want the very, very small map, the little tiny Nasher Fest that everybody knows and loves, and then we always want the really big map. And so we try and get kind of a broad spectrum of map size, of play style, of art look and feel and environment and all those things, and cover the spectrum there. And then with Museum in particular, because of the way the map is laid out, it plays very differently in every game type that you play, which is kind of special and unique. Like you could have a really good Dom match,
yeah,
and then a really good TDM match, and see completely different parts of the map that you never saw before in each game type. And like, so where the action is focused around one specific spot in one specific game type, it's in a completely different place, which makes the map a little bit more versatile in that regard. And I think that yes, you can go around and you can get lost in it, but it also allows for a little bit more strategy and planning. It gets a little bit sketchy when you get down to lower player counts or free-for-all, and it's like, okay, we're all waiting for that one guy who's hiding in the corner and impossible to find. But it does give teams good options, I think, in a lot of regards.
Okay. Now, breakthrough. Here's my honesty part for you. All right, I think the game type is fun. I feel like it lacks depth. That's just me personally. It's one of almost like Mastered Arms. Like, it's fun. Colin's probably going to have a bone to pick with you on the game type as well. But it's just, I can see where it's like, yeah, it's almost a bomb. It has the elements there. It's like
not at all.
Saying, like, yeah, this is like the bomb game type.
I said that earlier. That's exactly what it is.
But there's some elements. So there's some changes that I think would make it better for me personally, just playing it. One, because you actually lower the speed of the flag carrier. Instead of having the flag always ping, always on, when you have the flag, I feel like the player should ping in intervals. Like, 5 seconds you see him, 3 seconds you don't. Because he has a slower speed, so it's like it becomes very easy to defend. And you generally know, okay, there's the flag. I'm going to assume that he's going to have maybe 2 guys on his right and some other guys went to grab his power weapon. And from my play experience so far, and I've only sunk, I don't know, maybe 3 hours or so into Breakthrough, I pretty much have a sense of how I needed to set up defense every single time I play, no matter the map. And even when I didn't understand Museum from a power weapon position play, because that flag was pinging, I said, well, I pretty much know how I should defend this. And so it really didn't have a layer of depth that was like, okay, well, the flag carrier is going to have this option or this option or this option. He's pretty much, I know where he's at. If he's by this area, okay, he might have this power weapon. So, that's one of the changes I would have made. And I think the other change I probably would have made is the flag gets caught in really, really difficult spots to, like, move. Whether it be a corridor, whether it be, like, an area where you only have 2 entry points, and so you're, all right, all I have to do is point my gun here or point my gun here. Why was there no decision to have not touch respawn, but like after a minute or 30 seconds have the flag respawn back at the
So as I mentioned
position,
originally, the game type was designed in-house at PCF as a CTF game type. And that was actually started before we even shipped Judgment. So we knew we wanted to do some game types down the road. We had several kind of in the early prototyping stages, and that was one of them. And that actually, we continued that for a while, and they were messing with it. And we went through a lot of the iterations of things exactly what you were talking about, like, do we want to show the flag carrier, do we not? We looked at a lot of other games that are out there, everything from even traditional Unreal Tournament capture the flag style to like what is Halo doing, what is Call of Duty doing, what are all these other games, how are they set up nowadays, and tried to capture what we thought was kind of the best of the feature set there. And then, as we always do, we want to put our gears twist on it, and so we made a few changes here and there, and then as after Judgment shipped and all this was going on, like I said, we kind of sat down one day and hit a heart-to-heart, and we figured this isn't really working in asymmetrical maps. It's not as fun as we wanted it to be. It's not going to reach its full potential. And what people really want is a single objective-based game type. And so we looked at how we could change that and get it up and running. And like by that point, we were literally down to 2 weeks of dev time, and so things were really coming down to the wire for us. And it's unfortunate, but it's reality that we were on a very short time frame with a very small team. And I think that what we actually came up with is really solid and really fun. No, it is not a bomb game type. Sorry, Colin. But I think that it is significantly better than the CTF that it started from. It definitely plays more like a Gears game than some of our other stuff does, and kind of recaptures a lot of that feel that we were hoping for with a single objective game type. In terms of resetting, we did try it for a while, and it was resetting. We had capture to return and all that, and it became very much an exercise in frustration. And I personally really kind of wanted that limited pool of lives to kind of give you those clutch moments and build tension as the game progressed, so that it wasn't just a static, okay, we got it to here and it reset, now do the same thing all over again. So the way we have it now, I think tension builds, the map changes, strategy changes as time progresses. As those lives start to run out, you kind of have to rethink what you're doing. You have to rethink your approach. You really have to work together in order to be successful. And personally, I think that lends itself more toward Gears and more toward a more kind of focused and interesting match to watch, as well as to play.
All right, do you want to go to chat questions? All right, open up the floodgates.
Chat questions, yeah.
If you guys have any questions in chat, go ahead and post them. I guess you can go ahead and tweet me too. I will do Twitter. Maybe.
You're multitasking. I love it.
Someone said, Blue Dodger asks, how does Jim feel about
the
the
Lost
fact
City
that the
Easter
Lost
egg, as
City
far as I
Easter egg
know,
was found in
has
West
not yet been discovered? Is he talking about museum?
It sounds like it's been discovered.
I'll have to check. I have been offline for a few days, so I haven't checked any. Haven't seen what's going on in the forums there.
They found you out, Jim.
Dumbfounded asks, can you reduce the melee spread for the test server? I believe
yeah. You're talking about playing with melee in the test server? Sorry, you're breaking up. I couldn't quite hear. Yeah, we're definitely going to play with that. That's on the list of things to do for sure.
Yeah.
So Meta Knight asks... Sorry,
just
go ahead.
Real quick, back to the other question. Assuming we're talking about museum, because I will not confirm nor deny anything about Lost City, because I haven't checked the forums to see what's going on. But in terms of museum, yeah, people did find it like right away, and Tom Browett, the designer who put all that together, was seriously bummed, and his very first comment was, "I knew I should have made that harder." But in all honesty, I'm glad. I love that Easter egg because it's so cool. It's such a throwback to our...
That's what sucks. I mean, if you make an Easter egg that's never found, then you don't get any joy of knowing that someone found it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Which is why you should give out hints towards what the missing Easter eggs are.
I mean,
otherwise you will have no joy in your heart, because now it's lived long enough that you can feel good that you made it hard for them to find it.
No joy in my heart. Yes. No, there is some satisfaction in knowing that it's so well hidden as well. But that one in particular I love, because there's such a throwback to UT, to Bulletstorm, to Infinity Blade, and to just kind of all of our old classic epic stuff that gives me warm fuzzies.
Someone says laugh track.
Laugh track is fun.
Okay. This question is, obviously you had Kale and I out. You weren't there, unfortunately, for that week. But Kale and I and was it 8 others? Okay, came out. So the question from Meta Knight is, do you think you'll bring in other players earlier in the dev cycle on future titles?
Absolutely.
Nice. Seemed like that was the general impression while we were there as well. Everyone must be happy. Back to the chat.
Is it possible to make dynamic game mode events, say TDM, DXC, Breakthrough? All in one
No.
round?
What is that?
that even a
What was
serious
the
question?
PlayStation game that did that?
That's a serious question.
There's been a few I can think of that did some. Killzone did it.
Yeah, Killzone. That's what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. Like every few minutes or every
So
objective.
would it be
changes
round to
something
round?
else.
Yeah.
No, that's not technically possible on Gears. We would have to design specifically for that. But it's a crazy and over the top but kind of fun idea.
That was the thing with Killzone. It's like it was really hard to communicate through the UI what was
Yeah.
supposed to be happening.
Yeah. What am I doing now? Not what was I doing 30 seconds ago?
Yeah. And then the transition between them gets all murky. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare.
How does Gears know what region I'm in? I don't think he can answer that. That's just IP checks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fixes. Can you fix the corpse in Overrun?
Yeah.
Corpser. He is.
Yeah, that was actually one of my feedback points. Is I remember when we
Corpser
play
at,
tested, the
play
Corpser
test?
was absolutely insane. And then when the game came out, the Corpser is really awful
was
compared to the.
No.
I
I think
So
I think that's one of those
maybe that
things
could be blamed
that,
on us, perhaps.
people who really know what they're doing, or when you really use it in the right circumstances, the Corpser is freaking deadly. Like it is the ultimate. But when you just blow money on it because you have it, it's not necessarily the best time to use it. So I would say that I have seen it abused quite heartily in actual matches when it's used correctly. So
Mauler is really
I don't
good
think
though,
it's-
and it's cheaper.
it is, and that's the reason why, though, right? The Corpser is not supposed to be something that you see all the time or that you use as soon as you get it. It's one of those high-end things that you're supposed to use at the right moment to basically change the match.
I guess I can kind of generally. Are you able to do server-side updates for Overrun, or is that something that would require a patch? And you guys haven't really touched Overrun balance since launch, I don't think, right?
No, we haven't. I mean, there are some things we can change, just like regular MP. We can change. We can mess with weapons a little bit and things like that. We can change, kind of like we used. What weapons you start with, things like that. But
Okay.
We can mess with some things, I guess. is what I would say.
Really, I'm just trying to enable people to complain on the forums.
No, but I mean, like I said, it's really interesting because there is such a huge split in the community, and we get some Overrun feedback. Generally pretty happy with the game type, and it feels really good online. The balance is there. It's a lot of fun. Matches go pretty much the right level of intensity and length that we were hoping for. The fun test setups. So
Close.
it's just it's a different crowd, right? And they're not as vocal. We don't hear from them as often, but they seem generally happier.
Any chance for of seeing customizable gears?
Anything's possible in
characters
future
in
gears.
Bomb game type.
Anything's possible.
It's something that Quinn learned really quick, Jim, but I am relentless.
No,
Why?
dude, I am there with you. I have wanted it since Gears 2.
Yeah.
So. We actually had it prototyped and up and running at one point for Gears 3, and I don't know what happened to
It's
it.
just dumbfounding to me that that could
I
slip
have
the cracks.
no idea why it didn't. I have
Dumbfounded.
no idea why it didn't work its way into Judgment. It just does not make sense to me.
Why don't any DLC maps have audio cues that play when certain weapons are picked up? Like chimes on library for boom shot. Or
The
thunder.
audio design for those was
streets
done
for
in-house
HOD.
PCF, and I don't think that guy knew necessarily kind of some of the more subtle things that we were doing. That was actually one of the guys on the team. That was kind of his pet project, was to go through all the maps and just kind of add those really cool, subtle things to the audio for each of the maps and give cues like that. And we played with it, we tweaked it, we balanced it a lot, and it was just one of those things that he was one of the guys who moved on to another project, so he didn't get to put his special magic touch on the DLC stuff.
Got another question I saw from Darkness UK. I'm trying to scroll up and find it real quick. I'm gonna get 2 more questions after this one. Where's it?
Do I have to answer that question? I think that one's on you.
Oh, my daughter's going. She's going now.
Why wasn't Breakthrough on?
Why wasn't Breakthrough
because it was
on Overrun?
It was
maps?
designed for the other maps. I mean, we wanted to capture that crowd. Really, we were hoping to deliver a single objective-based game type for the competitive community, and kind of bring back more of that Gears feel. And also the Overrun game types. People have asked, like, why can't you just make them run in TDM? There's a lot of scripting and kind of under the hood stuff that goes on there. It's not like we can just retroactively open up all the doors and stuff that separates the different areas, or spawn players in weird places other than just at those E-holes. So there's a lot of like kind of technical stuff there that just wouldn't run on previous maps if we tried to force that game type in there.
Actually, got a really good question. I think we could actually probably wrap up on from Dibbles. What other games are you playing recently? I think that's a good question to fall off of.
So I have poured myself recently into The Last of Us.
Okay.
I am absolutely, completely enamored with that game. I've played through it twice now. I've been looking at Dishonored a little bit, playing a little bit of Call of Duty. What else have I been playing? A lot of stuff on mobile. Looking at just iPad games, phone stuff, a little bit of League. I don't know. I'm just kind of all over the place right now.
Sounds about the same for us then. Everyone's just waiting for the new consoles to see all the cool new stuff.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a genre that I am totally completely devoted to, and so I really try and play as much as I can, even if it's not a game that I think I'm gonna want to play through, just to kind of see what they did, what the teams are doing, where design is going, what's going on, and kind of in that world, because that's what I care about. It's what I do. So.
Right. All right. You think that's good, kid? I think we can go and wrap up for the show tonight. You have anything else? Yeah, I know.
I do think we can wrap up. I hate that we have all these technical difficulties for this show, because I was basically silent and off camera for all of the show. Didn't get to. I tried to limit my questions that I had, but yeah, thank you, Jim, for coming on and doing this. Is longer than I wanted. But
no, absolutely glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Really appreciate it.
Hopefully I gave you guys some insight into stuff. I hope I was not too evasive on some of those questions that I couldn't answer, but tried to be candid when I could.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of concerns for a lot of people. So tried to keep it really broad.
Yeah, and seriously, it's not the end of the dialogue by no means. I absolutely encourage people to reach out to us and talk to us. We always want to hear what you guys have to say, good or bad. So hey, stay in touch, and yeah, I would love to come on online and play with you guys.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Cool.
All right, sounds good. For everyone in the chat, guys know we do this every Tuesday, 9 p.m. We're trying to get a lot more devs on like Jim from a lot of different games that I'm sure you guys are all playing. So make sure to follow us. 9 p.m. Eastern again every Tuesday. Peace. The Frag Logic show. We will catch you guys later.